topic is because obesity is an issue that affects Black people disproportionately. And I'm going to talk about the many impacts that it has, consequences of obesity, and also how we can fight this in hopefully easy and effective ways. Amen. Okay, so the goals for our talk today is to understand the role of nutrition on physical health and how to prevent and manage your chronic illnesses, and then also to understand the basic components of a healthy eating lifestyle. And then we also want to discuss effective lifestyle changes to improve your diet and your own relationship with food. So about obesity, it's defined, we define it using BMI, which is kind of a ratio between your height and your weight. There is a strong relationship between what you eat, the amount of calories that you eat, and what you do, so the calories you expend, like energy output. Of course, the relationship is a little more complicated, so things like diet, genetics, where you live, what you do with your day, all of that can impact it, but the base of it is the relationship between what you eat and what you do. So over 54% of Black women and nearly 40% of Black men suffer from obesity. And it's a major contributor to heart disease, stroke, and cancer, actually. And that's something that disproportionately affects Black Americans as well. And then also, it's a risk factor for infertility, depression, dementia, and as well as joint and mobility problems. So in terms of obesity and chronic disease, the big one we think about is diabetes, but there are some others. So when people are obese, they have 7 times the risk of having diabetes. And then there's a 30% higher risk of things like heart attacks, which is like a blocked blood vessel in your heart. And then over 60% higher risk of stroke and early death, so untimely death, dying before you really should have. And then we talk about reproductive health. So there are strong links between obesity and breast cancer, colon cancer, and other reproductive cancers like those that occur in the endometrium, which is the lining inside your uterus. And it impacts up to 25% of infertility in this country. And then when you are pregnant, you have an increased risk of a high-risk pregnancy, and so you have increased risk of stillbirth, miscarriages, gestational diabetes, and preeclampsia, which is a major issue for Black women in this country. And then when you actually deliver your baby, you have an increased risk of C-sections and what we call instrumented deliveries, which is when you have to use like a vacuum to pull the baby out. And then there's mental health. So it increases your risk of depression, as well as Alzheimer's, dementia, and then increased risk of osteoarthritis and low back pain because your body's just trying to build up and hold up that weight. So how we can fight against this, it's mainly by what we eat. So you are basically what you eat. Of course, we do encourage things like exercise, mainly because it impacts your heart, it helps you live longer on earth, it helps your mood. But in terms of weight loss, the major thing is diet and what you eat, and the quality of what you eat. So eating the right things matters more than the quantity. So you can eat a lot more if you're eating the right things. Okay, sorry, it's a little bit small, but this is the healthy food plate. So before, a while back, we used to talk about the healthy pyramid. We moved away from that, and now we're focusing on the healthy food plate. And this is how much you can eat in a day. So it's not necessarily based on meals. So you see the big portion, at least 50% of what we eat should be fruits and vegetables. So it's half of what you eat in a day. And then a quarter between proteins and whole grains. So this is completely different from how we structure our meals in the United States, because we tend to have carbohydrates or starches and meat be the big portion, and then we look at veggies as like a side. But actually, veggies should be the big portion of the meal, and then it's a side of meat and a side of starches. And then on the side, we're going to talk about this a little bit more, but we want to have healthy oils, like olive oil, canola oil, and vegetable oils, as opposed to kind of more meat-based oils, or peanut oil, and I know we tend to use that a lot. And then water. So we want to drink water to quench our thirst, and not do so much of the juices and sugary beverages, and I'll expound on that later. So right, for vegetables and fruit intake, we want to make sure that that is a big portion of what we eat. So I know I said half fruits and vegetables, but really we want to do more vegetables than fruit because it is a source of sugar. Yes. The source of sugar in fruit is not as bad as eating things like candy or white bread because it's a little bit more complicated and it takes your body a little bit longer to break down, so you don't have this huge spike in your blood sugar. Yes. But I would encourage everyone to put more vegetables in their diet and a wide variety of vegetables of different colors. And then whole grains. So this is actually a big issue because a lot of the grains we eat tend to be processed grains. So like white pasta or white bread, white rice. And we actually want to do more whole grains because it increases your fiber intake, and it's also more difficult for your body to break down. So you won't have this huge spike in sugar and then a crash and a drop. Your body will kind of break it down over the course of the day, and that's actually better for you. And then also when we have white bread and white rice, it's actually stripped all the good things about rice. So all the minerals, all the vitamins that we can get from it, it's been pushed out and stripped away. So I would encourage you guys to use more like brown pasta, kind of wheat bread, brown rice, and then I do see some people talking about like spinach noodles and things like that. There is not as much of a benefit from spinach noodles versus wheat noodles, so I wouldn't necessarily focus on that, but really just make sure that what you're eating is it's whole, and generally whole is brown. Okay, then lean proteins. So this is a big deal too. So we can get your proteins from nuts, fish, and then lean meats. And so lean meats would include things like turkey and chicken. And that's pretty good. You can kind of eat more of that. And then fish like trout, salmon is wonderful. And then nuts as well. And seafood is pretty good too, actually. The ones we recommend avoiding are things like lamb, beef, goat, these red meats. And the reason why is because of the number of...
Did you talk to her? Leave my goats alone.
It's what they want to eat. So, but I'm going to tell you why. Because animal fats tend to be something called saturated fats, which are much harder for your body to break down. So it'll just kind of like sit there in your body and just not move. So you'll see it a lot in steaks, sausages, bacon, pork. And so the fats that you get from vegetables is actually a lot better for you. Yes. And then fast food. So it's really not good for you. And you can think about why. So these things are made in a factory elsewhere and then shipped by truck or something and sit in the fast food restaurant for a while. So these are packed with things like preservatives, which actually act on your body the same way that salt does. And so a lot of people are salt sensitive, we call salt sensitive. So a lot of people with hypertension, or high blood pressure, if they reduce the salt in their diet, they can actually get off medication. And I've actually gotten a few patients to come off medication. Also, what we found is that when you ask Americans the most common vegetable they eat, it'll be potatoes via French fries. So that does not count. We want the vegetables with different colors, like we showed you on the slide before. Okay, and then juice is obviously I used to think there was a difference between juice and soda, and there absolutely is not. It's all sugar water.
Oh, is that right?
So that's my recommendation is for thirst to drink water. And really, juices and things like this should be more of a treat. Something like once in a while, if you're out, you want to enjoy a beverage, that's okay. But what you drink during the day should be water to quench your thirst. Okay, so after telling you what you can eat, I want to give you also some examples of what's good to eat. One of the healthiest diets we have is what we call the Mediterranean diet. And it incorporates a lot of what I talked about before. So it's very heavy on the fruits and vegetables, and it includes a lot of the whole grains, and then also uses a lot of healthy fats. So I would encourage you if you're cooking something, grilling something, stewing something, try olive oil, and don't use like the butter with it as much. If maybe you want to add like a bit of a creamy taste, I would use more so olive oil and then like a little bit of butter to kind of help give it some creaminess, but we don't want to use butter the entire time. And in terms of like spreading food or spreading some oil when you eat some bread, you can use like or spiced olive oil. So put some spices in there, and you can use that to dip your bread in. Okay, and then also seafood. So the recommendation is eat fish twice a week. So tuna is good, salmon is wonderful, trout, mackerel, herring, and then also we recommend grilled fish over fried fish. Grilled fish I think is pretty good. You can also roast it. And then of course we talked about reducing the red meat. So I would say, and we'll talk about this later, keep track of how much you're eating per week in terms of meat and the servings that you're getting. And then also you can enjoy some dairy. So low-fat Greek or plain yogurt is good. So a lot of times what's sold in the stores is very sugary yogurt. And my recommendation is to get like a plain yogurt, and then you can get fruits, cut up some fruits, and put them inside to give it a little bit of flavor. And you're actually going to control the amount of sugar that you're eating. It's going to be a lot less than what comes in the already prepared yogurt. And then of course spice it up. So we all like our food to have seasoning. It doesn't necessarily mean salt. And so as you decrease the amount of salt in your food, you'll recognize that you lose your taste for salt as well. And you can use kind of like spices and herbs to still give it some heat. But I do want to say hot sauce has a lot of salt. So I'm not saying you should put hot sauce in everything. There's not much of a difference in terms of outcomes. Either one that works for you and your taste profile, so maybe if you're a savory versus sweet person, you can do either. Just to let you know though, if you do have diabetes, decreasing your carb intake will be better for diabetes prevention, and you won't need as much insulin, you won't need as much medications. And then when you're looking at low-fat foods, I know it's marketed as being heavy, but oftentimes so that people still want to eat it and enjoy the taste, they can be really high in sugar and sodium to boost the taste. So just be careful and read the nutrition facts on the back. And like I said, the quality of the food is the most important. So if you do decide to do low carb, just make sure that what fats you're eating are more so vegetable fats versus animal fats, and you're cooking your food the right way. If you decide to do low fat, you want to get your carbs from more so whole grains and good sources. So that's what I mean by quality. The quality of what you're eating is the most important. And the last thing I'm going to be talking about is what we call mindful eating. And I've discussed this with a lot of my patients, and they've been able to do pretty well with it. So it's basically paying attention to what you're eating while you're eating. So if you eat super fast, oftentimes you will eat past being full. And sometimes we try to eat to become full. And that should not necessarily be your goal. You want to eat until you're not hungry. And the way that you know that is by listening to your body and kind of taking time to eat. And then you can slow down your eating. So sitting down and not eating like on the go will help you do that. Chewing your food more often, and then just kind of like taking a break in between bites and just kind of setting your fork down. Then also you want to know your body's personal hunger signals. It's very easy to get them confused with kind of like emotional issues and needs. So sometimes we just want to eat because we're bored, or maybe we're stressed, lonely, maybe we're actually thirsty or we're tired. So just before you reach to get the food, just slow down, take a break, and like, what am I actually feeling? Is it a response to something that happened in the workday? And maybe you just need some time to reflect or to talk to a friend. If you're bored, find something else to do. If you're thirsty, drink some water, not juice. The other things too is eating alone versus randomly versus eating with others. So sharing mealtime with others is actually a good way, because you're kind of talking while you're eating, you guys are kind of enjoying the food, and you have more time to reflect. So it's good to use plates and bowls rather than eating things straight out of the container, because that's easier for you to adjust your portion sizes, and you can always get more, right? So you put a small portion on your plate. If you're really hungry, you can go back and get some more. But you don't necessarily have to eat like right out of the container, because then it becomes a little bit harder to control your portions. Yes, and then so understand your motivations, and that's just going to take some time to reflect. Typically what I advise patients to do is just like maybe a week of just kind of journaling, and so you can find like what your triggers are. I recommend that they not eat in front of the television or at the desk at work, so that you can focus on what you're eating. You can also focus on what you enjoy about what you're eating. So some people, I have patients who who really love chips, like salty, crunchy chips. You ask them, what do you like about it? Sometimes they're like, I really like the crunch, or they like the taste. So you can get foods that are very flavorful and gives you like a little bit of salt and crunch. If you eat like celery, carrots, and dip it in hummus or some of the dip, you can get that saltiness and the crunch that you want. And so just kind of, once you use like mindful eating, you can really reflect on what it is you enjoy about your food, and actually what stuff you really don't like that much. Because sometimes we just eat food because it's there. So if you're sitting there and you're like, I don't really enjoy this that much, replace that with something that's actually good for you. You don't even like it really. And then also focus on what you like about the food and find healthy foods that kind of mimic that and don't come with the bad stuff. Okay, so we talked about distracted eating versus just eating, and that's kind of what I was saying, just kind of focusing on what you're doing. And I'm not saying you can never eat in front of the TV or never eat at work, but just maybe a week or two, just focus on what you're eating and then make some changes accordingly. And then change what is available to you. So a lot of times we reach for things because they're convenient. So if you take stuff like, instead of taking chips to work, take some veggies to work, and you can use that to snack on instead. And then also put your food in the cupboards. So sometimes we just look at it and we're like, okay, we're gonna put it up, put it away, and the stuff works, and it won't be on your mind as much. Okay, that's it. Thank you.